Hi, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome for today's episode of learning more about Bodytalk ACCESS, and an upcoming live presentation that Elza Beata is going to be presenting. My name is Palace Dame, and I am an integrative health practitioner, and I am a student of Elza. I am a patient, client of Elza, and a huge proponent of helping her get out to the world with the profound work that she does with these modalities. Go ahead, Elza.
Thanks so much for having me here with you today. I'm excited to talk about the idea of what lifestyle medicine is and why it's important now more than ever for people to have tools and resources in their hands that they can use immediately to begin to enhance the health and well-being, not only of themselves and their families, but if they are professional providers, how to enhance their professional clinical practice and support their community.
Awesome. Yeah, the being able to support the community in this type of conscious medicine is huge. It's, one, we can take it home for ourselves and start claiming more of our own health autonomy and our own direction of thriving and being able to show up in the world. But it also makes healthcare ultimately accessible to everybody. And there's no divisions of income or education that are necessary to be able to care for yourself and give yourself the highest quality of life and the highest potential to have a good and happy life here on planet Earth.
Yeah, one of the things that I have been talking for years about is how people have lost touch with their body's internal technologies and how their body heals itself. So we all know that the body is healing and repairing itself all the time, every single day. But because of the way that we are socially conditioned or the different paradigms around what health is, most people think about looking outside of themselves and seeking the support of the consultation of maybe a doctor or a practitioner or, some sort of different regimen, which all is very valuable and important to helping re-engage individuals' understanding of how their bodies work and helping walk people through, stages of change. But if we aren't utilizing our own, like I said, again, internal technologies, our breath, our consciousness, our mind state, our focus, our intention, our decisions, our choices, and our ability to choose the different pathways towards health, whether that be through diet, through mindfulness, through movement, through food as medicine, through herbs, through nature. If we don't first have that in place and we're not on a day-to-day basis setting up choices that help us to maintain integrity with our health and well-being, then I've come to the conclusion we have no business looking outside of ourselves for these external things to help heal us, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I love about Bodytalk ACCESS and when I think of the idea of community health or health equity, it is really that idea of teaching people how to fish, right? So teaching them the skills and the tools and giving them the resources that they can enhance and be in the driver's seat of their own consciousness, their own body, their own behaviors, and their own understanding of how their body actually works and how it heals and how these day-to-day, the way we carry our life out on a day-to-day basis is really what sets that up for us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's very good. So for folks who tune in and are participating in this today, it's having an entirely new paradigm, really, of what has been known to date for just people. This could sound like a very monumental thing to start looking at, diving into, and only the baccalaureate people can accomplish something like this. So for folks who might feel a little intimidated by this profound concept, how could you break that down for them a little more? And how is it accessible for everybody in that way?
Well, really, we're all in these human bodies. We all have breath, focus, attention, awareness, choice. and the ability to learn in a very simplified manner on how our bodies work. I've taught every type of person, from young children to PhDs, to doctors, to artists, to friends who are, houseless and living on the street, to people who are incarcerated. And every single person, there's a through line of connection that we all are breathing. We all have a heart that is beating. We all have lungs that are exchanging gas. We all have a digestive system, and we're all modulating our function based off of a nervous system. No matter where you are, or what you think you know, or how old you are, or how many traumas you've had, or how much excellence and peak performance you've trained into your body, we all have this system that has this potential to consistently keep us connected, evolving, and growing. It's the human experience. And one of the things that I have found to be so profound is really providing these tools for young children. I feel like if you can't explain it to a kindergartner, then it's not really relevant. So no matter, again, how far you are into your studies or your depth, or how naive and beginner's mind you are, you still have a body, and there's still these understandings that are just basic foundational frameworks. If you can learn to master your nervous system and master your breath, your focus, and your intention, your stress response, you're going to be far, far ahead of any kind of disease, disorders, injuries, upsets, mental, emotional strife, because you have created a relationship to your body's own innate intelligence. So this is really about simplifying that connection to the body's innate intelligence and helping bring people back into a relationship of being able to sense what's going on within themselves and being able to shift their states of consciousness or their nervous system awareness or the disease processes that have set up in a way that is really actually simple. And again, utilizes, like I say it again, our own internal technologies.
Yeah, it's been really useful for me to be able to kind of speak about the human body in relation to computer technology. I think computer technology doesn't really hold a candle ultimately to how the human body works, but the whole defragging process, kind of the old school defragging that unhealthy code, those little bits and pieces that are just slowing the system down so that the system can come back online in its highest potential. And I've learned a lot of those aspects, the language around that from you too. So maybe you can go expand a little bit more about that for kind of our techies out there. How does this work for an engineering mindset to or esoteric ways?
What comes up for me is this idea of pattern language. Like, we are all following a rhythm and a pattern, a cycle, a flow, the amount of time it takes for our cells to build and recreate themselves, the time it takes to digest our meals, the rising and falling of the sun and the moon, the ebb and flow of the cycles of the moon through the month, the seasons of the year. So there's patterns and like algorithms and mathematics, or what I would call like alchemy, as to how our body systems fit into the nestled relationship of nature. And the more we get away from those natural rhythms, those natural processes, and the natural active and passive balance in our harmony, the more we have difficulty adhering to the patterns that are set up for us to evolve and grow. So we develop what's called an aberrant pattern when we have trauma, when we have disease, when we have, maybe issues from diet or injury. I mean, you can name it: cuts for luck, or scars for freedom, any of the things above. All of our trials and tribulations and traumas can give us the choice to strengthen and endure on our path, or can set us off our path. And then we kind of have to create a maladaption. And that's really what disease is. It's a lack of ability to adhere to a process, to be able to utilize a pattern and the rhythms and the dynamics of multiple patterns that are designed to keep a wholeness coming together. So I don't know if that too much gets into, you know, the techie side of the things, like we can think about things like defragmenting or downloading or, you know, uploading information, I guess. But from my sense, I think from a technological standpoint, again, internal technologies, being able to follow the rhythms of our own processes, our own truth, our ability to follow the seasons, to follow the monthly rhythms, the daily rhythms. The more we fight against those things and try to make something that is not natural, the harder it is to, you know, fit into this like beautiful, flowering, opening human design and growth and potential that we all have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And it's making me think of just this pretty simplistic statement that, you know, most of us in healing modalities hear quite a bit. It's where the attention goes, energy flows. And that has huge impact once, you know, one's able to start kind of breaking down what that actually means. And so kind of in the way that you're talking about pattern matching, how would you integrate that concept to expand on that?
Well, I mean, it's a foundation of classical Chinese medicine of knowing where the attention is where the qi is going to go, and then the blood is going to follow that. And so our reserve resources basically are going to be sent to these areas that we are putting attention on, right? And so if we're putting attention on being stressed, if we're putting attention on feeling anxious, if we're putting attention on feeling the dissonance in our relationships or a dissatisfaction or, you know, anything that is where our focus is, then our body biologically is going to adapt to that and create a stress state, create an anxious state, create a trauma state, create tension in the way we respond when we're, you know, in communication or relationship with someone. Our physiology is designed to match our experience and perception of the world around us. And so really, when we look at something like Bodytalk or mindfulness or anything that really trains the ability of the human to be in connection with their truth, with their innate intelligence, we're really helping to support organizing our body system around that truth, because each one of us has our fingerprints. Each one of us has our unique potential, our unique heart song. And the more that we tap into that authentically, the more our biology and the more our physiology is going to organize itself and build this living structure of tissue, of blood, of immunity, of growth potential, of reaction, of action. The more we're in connection to this truth, the more we're going to build our system to house that truth, right? Mm-hmm. To allow it to be animated through our physical potential. And we all have the ability to get closer and reconnected to that pattern of our own purpose and truth. And then we all have the ability to train how to be in unity with that. And so something like mindfulness or Bodytalk gives us the ability to first introduce ourselves to a deeper level on a day-to-day basis of who this innate intelligent driving force is within us, and then allow us to maintain a relationship with it when we start to recognize, like, oh, my nervous system feels a little tense, or, oh, I'm feeling a little afraid, or, oh, I'm breathing a little more shallow, or, oh, I'm tensing up my shoulders, or, oh, wow, my digestion is a little off. Most of us that aren't communicating to our innate intelligence don't get those triggers. They don't get those, indicators. And so when we start to build a relationship to our innate intelligence, we have the ability to say, oh, this is happening. Let me shift what's going on, whether it's through the breath or through focus or just through recognizing, like, every time I eat quinoa, my body feels really bad and I have really big digestive cramping, so I don't eat quinoa anymore. Or every time I, sit on the iPad for way too long, my eyes start to hurt, or I'm feeling a little emotionally unregulated and I'm short in my, relating to people. So then you recognize how to have this concept that has been, utilized throughout all types of different therapies, this idea of behavioral self-management, And so if we can be in connection with our innate intelligence and then have some behavioral self-management or some lifestyle practices around what enhances and uplifts and allows that innate intelligence to flourish, then we've taken back the mastery of our own health.
Wow. So you're actually, so in what I'm hearing you say, and what I see in my practice though, is that we actually have way more authority over our lives and our trajectory than we've ever been schooled to believe. Just because our mother or father had cancer, or they had type 1 diabetes, or some genetically transmutable something down the road, people tend to think, well, they had this, so this is my destiny. So we actually have the ability to shift our trajectory and own our destiny by really knowing ourselves in these more, they're not clinical, but these more energetic ways.
Energetic, physical, sensational, all of the ways. When that is enlightened and awake within us, we have a choice to cultivate it, to master it, to be with it. And yes, we all have the opportunities to rewrite our DNA, to rewrite our muscle memory, to rewrite our feedback loops, our nervous system. And we have this inner authority that is based on a relationship to that innate intelligence. And it's like, anything, like you don't just learn a skill and some people are naturally gifted, obviously, but you don't just magically arrive at this level. But because that innate intelligence is always there and always waiting, and maybe it's buried under a lot of belief systems, or it's buried under a lot of physical injuries, or maybe it's buried under a chronic illness, and it's learned to adapt in a way that isn't at its highest functioning. It's like courting a relationship to it and then working at the process of how you learn to be in communication and connection with that inner authority.
Excellent. So I would love to have one of your stories that's relevant to kind of this conversation that we're having right now, an example of how somebody's life has been beneficially impacted by the session.
What comes up for me that's not actually like a direct answer to your question, as I was like talking about this, I was thinking this morning about a training practice that I was doing today with a heavy bag. So I have a background in martial arts. I run a Inshin karate dojo here in Crestone, Colorado, with my daughter. We've been training for many, many years. And I was just thinking about the first time that, I ever kicked a heavy bag. One, it hurt my shin. Two, I probably didn't do it properly. My feet weren't in the right position. And I really, it was difficult for me. And then I spent years being instructed on how to work with the heavy bag, how to use my mind and imagine it to be an opponent, how to move my body around it.
Yeah.
And how to follow the swinging and the rhythm of it. And it got me to this place today where I was actually training with the heavy bag blindfolded. And I was thinking about, gosh, like if I had just learned how to do this, I would probably hurt myself pretty badly trying to do something and not, 300-pound bag swinging at you. If you kick it the wrong way, it could really hurt yourself.
Right.
And so as I was talking about this idea of the choice to cultivate and court your own internal technologies, your own purpose, the more you have a relationship to repetitively engaging with a pattern, repetitively moving in a certain way, eating in a certain way, treating yourself in a certain way, and owning that relationship, the more you sharpen the skill of what that looks like. So just like, I was able to spend an hour on my heavy bag this morning, blindfolded and moving and, using my body in a way that took me years to get to be able to do that. We can all do that with our health. And so for me, over the years, what has been the most impactful as a teacher, as well as a practitioner and a clinician, is when people have that realization that the amount of learning, engaging, and repeating behaviors that feed the innate intelligence, self-care, breath, focus, proper diet, clean air, clean water. I mean, there's like a laundry list of these things, right? But the more that we engage with those things, the more that we practice them, the more they become second nature to us. And then we essentially are vibrating a state of vital health because we take the time to put energy into it. And now, just to add to that in one piece, it is really a choice point because everyone's got their excuse. Oh, I'm too busy to take a yoga class, or oh, I'm too busy to learn about my liver and why it's malfunctioning. Oh, I'm too busy to spend extra time with my kids. Oh, I don't have enough money to buy organic food. There's all kinds of excuses, but when there is a will towards the development of our truth, potential, and our actualization, and everything around us seems to organize with that. And then we're supported by our choices, and our choices start to become a little bit easier, and we start to rewire and refacilitate new patterns. And so what I've seen with Body Talk over many years is it's shifting the belief systems, shifting the maladaptive behavior, shifting the trauma, shifting the way the nervous system is, essentially replaying our distortions that have become our disease states. And then it's teaching people how to build a new healthy relationship. So we defragment the old habits and patterns, and then we reorient and reintegrate and train ourselves to have new healthy habits. So just like I explained training with the heavy bag, it's learning how to cook for ourselves. It's learning how to take time to notice what's going on in our mind, body, and spirit. It's noticing how to, be with our own self-care regimens. So aside from having a story, for me, it's really been about the people who have shifted all of their excuses, all of their blame, all of their externalization of putting their health in other people's hands and putting their problems in other people's hands, that have reclaimed this truth and this potential, that have led them to, being successful athletes, being authors, being amazing artists, being community organizers, changing the world around them, uplifting their own satisfaction, having healthy relationships, having the dream job that they love, having the relationship with their children, and bottom line, healthy lives. It's the people that take the chance to reclaim that inner authority that are the ones that make the change over a period of time and keep evolving year after year, breath after breath, and day after day.
I can't imagine anybody not actually wanting to claim their life in that way. Once they could understand just what kind of impact that could have over their entire existence here on this planet, this blessed opportunity to be alive. It might be a slow burn for some people to go, I can actually do that for myself. And, whether this is not about whether you believe in it either. It's Body Talk is not a belief system. It is a practice. It is a clinical practice, and it is a reorganizing of the body mind, and it is accessible to everybody. And which leads me to, you guys can go deeper with learning about what's coming up with Elza here on Saturday, July 10th. She is hosting an online or in-person class. She lives in Crestone. And Elza, why don't you talk a bit more about what people can be looking forward to?
Yeah, so we're going to be hosting a 2-hour free online or in-person presentation. I'm going to be detailing a little bit about what Palace just alluded to, the science, philosophy, and clinical application of something like Body Talk, but more so weaving in some of that intellectual knowledge base into understanding the dynamic systems of our human form, our potentials, intentions, and our ability to utilize something like Body Talk ACCESS, and Body Talk sessions as part of a holistic, complete, whole health, whole lifestyle paradigm that, again, puts us in the driver's seat of our own health and well-being. So this 2-hour presentation will feature a PowerPoint lecture as well as a Q&A, and then we'll be doing some demonstrations. So we'll be teaching a really powerful Bodytalk core disease technique. You guys can also try that technique. We've done it on some of our past live sessions. If you follow this link that just popped in, you can go through a video that teaches you how to do it for yourself. But in the class, we're actually going to teach you how to do it with a partner. So you can actually start feeling how to interact with your own intention, awareness, and connection with another human being. So it should be a really fun, free presentation. We really would love to have anyone who is interested in empowering their body's health, anyone who has been looking for answers around health challenges that they've been facing, people who are interested in peak performance and really becoming their own best resource of health. This free talk is definitely going to help you open your mind and your consciousness to remembering the potential that you have within you. This, Bodytalk ACCESS program is just one of many ways that you can get to enhancing that relationship to the innate intelligence and really being able to experience that and feel for yourself the potential of how that shifts and changes for you. So definitely July 10th, we'll be doing this monthly. We have a live presentation here in Crestone, Colorado. We're seated at the base of the Sangre de Cristo mountain range, which is one of the most sacred sites and sacred mountain ranges in North America. Very, very beautiful natural terrain here. So if you'd like to come and visit the Inchin Crestone Dojo, where we'll be doing our presentation, you may feel free to join us. But if you can't join us and you're across the globe or anywhere else, you can feel free to sign up and have access to that live presentation from the comfort of your home. And we'll be able to also interact with you with questions you might have via the internet.
Well, I'm super excited about that. And anybody who attends, I mean, you're going to have a deep dive into some of the most amazing and incredible concepts that you've probably never even been aware of for people who are just now starting to be interested in this other concept of health, wellness, medicine, and health autonomy. So for a sample of Bodytalk, one aspect of it, I would like to invite Elsa to lead us in a core disease balancing, maybe explain what that is and how that can benefit us.
So the Bodytalk core disease balancing is the basis of all Bodytalk, and it works to reconnect, reintegrate, and harmonize the relationship of the right and left hemispheres of the brain. Also the yin and the yang aspects of the brain and the whole body. So the masculine, the feminine, the negative, the positive, the yang external responsive, the yin receptive. It helps to bring us back to a baseline of harmony. And the whole process with the core disease is about activating our brain centers and waking up all the different areas of the brain that might have lost communication or maybe maladapted or distorted their communication. And then once that brain is awake, there's this idea that all disease or all state of balance is reflected in the brain and the body. There's a kind of two-way communication field. So the more we can balance and harmonize this connection between the right and left sides of the brain, the more we can have the brain's image and relationship and sensory understanding and perceptive ability connected into everything that's going on with our body. So the idea is, we keep balancing the brain, getting the brain awake, then our nervous system, our spine, our organs, everything that is in communication, which is literally everything in the body with our brain, is going to start to balance itself. So we'll lead everyone through this. I invite you guys to just have an open mind, follow along, and really stay with the breath and the focus and the intention of what you're doing through this process. So you ready to get started, Palace?
I am ready. Let's do the ultimate pattern matching.
Cool. So go ahead and just wherever you are, wherever you're seated, wherever you're connected, if you're sitting, uncross your legs, put your feet flat on the ground. If you're maybe sitting down, adjust yourself, and then just start with your breath. Our breath is our single most available tool that we have immediate access to greatly enhance awareness, connection, and presence in the body. As you feel your breath moving through your body, just notice you can deepen that sense of the breath, presence of the breath. And let the breath become the watcher. Just noticing how you're feeling. Where's your mind at? What's happening in your emotions? How are you feeling physically? And I'm going to invite you to direct that breath and focus it a little deeper. You can take one hand, whichever hand you prefer. You're going to place it on the base of the skull. I want you to direct the breath right into that space of the hand and think about filling that area of the brain with intention and breath. To imagine as your hand is placed on the base of the skull that you're creating a bridge between one side of the brain to the other through the hand. Big breath into that idea, this focused intention that you're creating this bridge of awareness, linking up the right and left hemispheres of the brain and updating the brain's picture of the body. We're going to begin tapping. We tap to activate the brain. So taking the other hand, tapping over the head, big breath in, thinking about linking up the right and left hemispheres of the brain and updating the brain's picture of the body. We're going to tap over the heart as well and the gut brain. We tap over these three brains to engage all three levels of consciousness in the body. Hand walks itself across the midline. We're going to breathe into this next layer of the brain, thinking about linking up the right and left hemispheres of the brain and updating the brain's picture of the body. So as you're tapping, you can just allow your hand to freely tap between head, heart, and gut, activating each of the brain, walking that hand, one hand breath up, waking up this next layer of the brain. We tap over the mind brain to the control center, the egoic thoughts and patterns engaged in this new state of connection and balance. We tap over the heart to engage the wisdom center, that self-actualization place, this place of our inner truth and connection. And then we tap over the gut to connect into our survival brain, the brain that allocates our resources. It sends our nutrients and blood, and kind of gut instincts through the body, all three levels of this consciousness, waking up to this idea, continuing to walk across the midline of the brain, that we're creating harmony and connection in the brain, waking up all parts of the brain, bridging this gap between right and left hemispheres of the brain, and in turn, bringing brain online with heart and gut and the entire body. We're going to bring our hand all the way down to the brow, getting into that prefrontal cortex. Big, big breath here, thinking about linking up the right and left hemispheres of the brain, updating the brain's picture of the body, and helping the brain and the body to communicate. In our last hand position, we're going to bring our hands to the sides of the head, feeling that beautiful 0-point energy field between the hands, just noticing both sides of the brain, activating, communicating, tapping, and waking up, sending that intention through the breath, through the hands. And take one hand down and tap. And then when you feel complete, just take a moment. Check back in with the breath. Follow the awareness of the breath. Just notice where your mind is, the physical sensations that arise through this practice. And any deepened awareness that may have shown up for you.
Thank you. That was amazing as usual. I was yawning with every pass. Giving lots of energy today.
Yeah, I say usually people might notice like your belly bubbles or you yawn or maybe like a little tear comes down. That's a sign your nervous system is shifting into that parasympathetic growth and healing space, and that you've actually created a shift or change in your nervous system awareness.
So for this introduction to Body Talk by balancing the cortices, when would you recommend that people repeat this just in their daily lives as a tool?
I recommend people utilize this on a daily basis for sure. I personally prefer to use it morning, noon, and night. So at the beginning of the day, like kind of middle of the day to get myself back in my center, and then at the end of the day to just kind of defrag, de-stress, and relax. It's a really great tool to wake the brain up when the brain is ready to wake up. And it's a really great tool at the same time to help the brain and the body relax when the brain and body are ready to relax. So we think of it as a tonic balancing. So wherever you are, if you're feeling a little more alert after doing that, that means your body is ready to be more alert. If you're feeling a little more tired, or you're feeling a little more restful, that's a sign that your body is wanting a little more rest. And so again, this is like teaching you how to listen to your body. So you just turned your nervous system on. And so now listen to what comes up for you. Maybe you notice like you're sitting a little taller, or maybe you notice a little pain somewhere that you want to stretch it out a little bit. It's like we go through our day forgetting about what's happening inside of us, right? And so the cortices, when I use it morning, noon, and night, it helps me just reconnect to what's happening in my internal world in response to the world outside of me, so that I don't get too wrapped up in kind of getting out of my center. So I like it 3 times a day, but definitely on a daily basis. I think it's really great practice to have at the end of the day too, to defrag from the day and get a restful sleep and shift your nervous system into that place of growth and healing.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I think we'll go ahead and conclude today's session. And for those of you that are interested in signing up for this upcoming free class with Elza, you can go to that link right there that's scrolling. If you don't want to write it down, you can go to the text on the YouTube page and click on the link. Different ways to access this. And we're also always available to answer questions, anything that might come up for you. And Elza and I will be back next Wednesday at 1:00 Mountain, talking about everything Body Talk and whatever comes up. So we hope to see you guys next week. And thank you for participating today, and enjoy the new cortices balancing tool that you've been given today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Palace, for having me. Thank you so much for checking this out. Share it with your friend. Be wellness. Tap your cortices. And hopefully we'll see you at that free presentation on July 10th. And can't wait to keep politicking and sharing more about this beautiful, vast resource that we find within Body Talk.
Terrific. Thank you. Bye, everybody.